What's up guys? Welcome to AnimeKouhai. If you'd like to help me out, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel.
She was shielded by an ultimate enchantment that included legend-class armor, and even god-class armor would struggle against it. Minaza's speed was faster than Shion's, but Shion was stronger. Minaza had the upper hand in defense, but Shion was far more skilled at healing.
Ah, this is happening again. You bugs are so much trouble. Extremely tough.
Shion was doing everything she could to break through Minaza's exoskeleton, no matter how little the fracture. When she did, Master Chef would handle the rest, which Minaza wished to prevent at all costs. She hadn't underestimated Shion, but she was proving considerably more obstinate than she had anticipated, and she felt threatened.
I still can't believe it. Even in the shape, she fights me so evenly.
Minaza could see Shion's massive magicule count, but if that was all she boasted about, it didn't explain why she was having so much trouble. Shion was a pain because, despite her sloppy demeanor, she was still fairly skilled with a sword, not as good as Benimaru, but her master Hakuro attested to her abilities. That made her a sword expert, and combined with her physical power, this was turning into a nightmare marathon for Minaza. Shion, on the other hand, was not having a good time. She intended to get rid of Minaza right away and move on, but she was proving to be stronger than she appeared.
Without a doubt, she is a fighter of the Empire's upper echelons. Sir Rimuru was right when he said that I can't let my guard down around her.
Perhaps she should have thought about it before jumping in. Shion, on the other hand, was never one to overthink things. Only now did she begin to consider how she was going to overcome this foe. It was far too late for that, but at least she knew she needed to utilize her brain a little more. But that wouldn't be enough to make her suddenly come up with a wonderful idea. It wasn't going to happen, but Shion had Seal on her side.
You wield enormous power. It took me long to decide on the best species out of all the options, but I've made my choice. The one that is best for you is...
Shion was reminded of something after hearing this voice. She appeared to recollect Rimuru asking her a slew of questions as he bestowed his evolutionary award on her. Shion didn't give her replies much thought, simply telling Rimuru that she'd accept anything he offered, but nothing new happened to her body in the end. Shion didn't worry if the rest of her companions evolved or not. Benimaru had evolved from an Oni to a Flamesoul ogre, with powers comparable to a true god ogre, but Shion remained an Oni. She didn't mind because she considered herself to be sufficiently powerful. This, however, would not be enough to earn her the victory over Minaza. Shion's desire for more was natural, and in response, the soul corridor was opened.
Battle Soul, Ogre. It is a high-level chaos elemental with exceptional material strength. Examining your abilities now.
Shion tossed the ball in Ciel's direction, thinking, I'll leave that to you. She then returned her attention to Minaza. Even though she was in a bad mood at the time, she believed the voice sounded cheerful. It could have just been her imagination, yet real changes were taking place.
What are you? Your energizing aura. Were you merely teasing me until now?
Her spirit was now stronger than her body. The awakening of her new species, as suggested by the voice, was now underway. Ciel controlled the various evolutionary possibilities, choosing the best ones as it saw proper. Shion was thus transformed into a Battle Soul Ogre, a rare but strong chaos elemental with infinite regeneration that was invincible as long as any magicules remained. The attacks of this body bring not just physical damage, but also spiritual destruction. And, despite the fact that this was a spiritual life form with no elemental flaws, it had a clear edge over all other elements. Shion had in a sense transformed into what may be referred to as the spiritual life's natural enemy. The evolution also changed her body, optimizing it to be better suited for combat. Shion could largely tell because of instinct. She felt revitalized as if she were stretching out under a clear blue sky. She prepared Goriki Maru version 2.
I'm sorry if I kept you waiting. My time with you, however, has come to an end.
She addressed Minaza with the utmost courtesy.
Don't give it to me. You may have been concealing your might, but I have also exposed my true form to you.
Minaza had altered considerably more than she had previously stated. Even though it meant shortening her own life, she craved for more offensive power as she fought Shion. So the fight began.
Those who attempt to destroy our safe haven will writhe in agony before dying. The ultimate enchantment alternative has been unleashed. Come to me now. Feed on my flesh and utilize your instincts to kill me.
Chaotic fate.
Shion's sword broke the horrible, forbidden last attack that Minaza was about to unleash before she could fully expose it. Shion now stood in front of a dismembered mass of flesh, broken into many fragments.
You're both too loud and talk for far too long.
What? What did you?
Minaza's head was one of the parts of flesh laying around, or, to be more precise, less than half of it. She became agitated as she realized her unavoidable death was approaching but was reluctant to accept it. Shion gave her a harsh stare.
Would you like me to help you along?
Shion was the worst opponent Minaza could have had. They were evenly matched before growing into a battle soul ogre, given the correct ultimate skills, but considering Shion's lack of ultimate skills, the fact they were still matched meant Minaza had no means of winning. However, following the evolution, her willpower had achieved its apex. It also transformed her favorite blade into a god-class weapon known as Goriki Maru Divine. Perhaps it would have been a different story if Minaza's power hadn't been borrowed from the Emperor, but she couldn't do anything against Shion right now.
No, you're far too powerful. But my children...
Minaza probably stated this since she couldn't see any longer. But her aspirations had already been crushed. Shion's chaotic fate had already ripped through all of the living things in this arena.
I certainly hope so.
Shion, on the other hand, only had words of pity for her.
How thoughtful of you. But if you're that type, you'll never be able to defeat our insect lord.
And Minaza's energy was depleted there. Shion had complete victory now that her existence was over.
Insect Lord?
That title dropped by Minaza was significant. Shion, on the other hand, didn't appear to mind.
Well, it's probably none of my business anyhow, I suppose.
She didn't even bother to remember the situation, displaying an almost refreshing amount of detachment from it. Minaza, an aggressor from another realm, suffered the same fate as her children. She had been working under Emperor Rudra's patronage to create a paradise for insectors, but she had gone just as she was about to complete her goal. Veyron was the second most powerful of the 7 demon peers who lived at the moment. He had risen to the position of Duke after going unbeaten for over 4,000 years. Despite this, he was now on the floor, embarrassed by Marco, who was dressed like a warrior and stood before him. Marco could imitate Kondo's look thanks to his unique skill adapter, and he used the ultimate enchantment alternate to its fullest potential to provide himself with Kondo-level skills. Nothing was thrown away in his strategy, and while Veyron was a titan, Marco was a level above him. Only because of Veyron's vast experience was he brought to his knees rather than murdered outright. All of his martial abilities, honed through years of Demon Dom, seemed to be ineffective. It was an unsettling reality to face, but Veyron remained unfazed. Deep down, he was actually loving the situation. He obviously did. After all, he had declared that he could win in front of his master Ultima and all the officers. As a result, he must.
Demon, is your name Veyron? I commend you on your wonderful effort, but there is no use in trying again and again. I've seen what you're capable of, and I'm confident that I can manage it.
I am certain it is. And your appraisal is right because I have yet to demonstrate my true potential.
What?
Marco was about to advise him to surrender. Veyron's reaction made him reconsider. In his opinion, the ability gap between himself and Veyron was as great as heaven and earth. After all, the demon was being defeated by Kondo's power, but for Marco at this moment, that strength served as his own. That's why Veyron's statements enraged him. He was a demon peer, although his magicule count was less than a fourth of his. Things were a little trickier previously because it wasn't one-on-one combat, but Veyron was alone now. Nobody was swooping in to intervene, giving Marco a huge edge. Nonetheless, Veyron stood up and laughed.
Offering me someone else's impersonation will not beat me. After all, it's the kind of impersonation that I excel at.
Huh? What exactly do you mean?
A fake can never compete with the real thing. You recognize that to be true, don't you?
What exactly do you mean?
Marco inquired, a little agitated. Veyron laughed internally, hoping he could just slash away as opposed to having this conversation.
Well, let me tell you something. What I believe to be the best possible work of art.
Veyron activated his newfound ability as he said this. Ultima's butler was Veyron. He had been entrusted with all of her personal care for a long time, and it was his responsibility to deal with whatever his master required of him. Zonda was in charge of the more specialized sector of cookery, while Veyron was in charge of everything else. Along similar lines, he had evolved a unique ability known as Imitator, which allowed him to transform into whoever he desired. Veyron's Imitator allowed him to transform into whomever he saw, similar to Marco's Adapter, although Imitator was more accurate. However, Marco's skill was now boosted by Emperor Rudra's borrowed power. With that in mind, Veyron had no chance. It didn't even need to be said. Why? Because Veyron's imitation was far more powerful than the Kondo to which Marco was adapting. Marco could only reproduce about 80% of Kondo's true strength. Veyron, as someone with a similar skill, knew it was impossible to reproduce someone significantly stronger than you. But he nevertheless decided to transform himself into the demon lord Rimuru, a magical being who had successfully enchanted even his master. He hoped that doing so would grant him some of that power. However, Veyron was interrupted by a voice.
That is something I will not allow you to do. Instead, I will bestow another power onto you.
The voice sounded similar to the voice of the world. It perplexed Veyron at first, but as he realized what it was saying, he was practically moved to tears. Yes, that love is keeping an eye on me as well. Veyron expressed his gratitude as if praying to a god. Then he noticed his skill had improved. Even if it was a forgery, an imitation, it might still be art if it impacted people, and, as if to confirm it, he could feel something new within him, the ultimate gift artist. With it, he was certain he could overcome Marco. A young warrior with strong, focused eyes confronted Marco now.
Can you tell me who you are? No. Wait. I don't mind. Lieutenant Kondo is the best swordsman I've ever met. You are free to imitate whoever you want, but you will still lose.
Veyron's impersonation of a young warrior resembled Agera, which makes sense given that it was Byakuya Araki in his younger days. It was Veyron's ultimate imitation, the absolute definition of it. He reasoned that a forger with exceptional talent could be able to reproduce works from an artist's heyday rather than their later work. He had reached this conclusion precisely because, in response to Ultima's requirements, he had attempted to master every field of art. Even though he had never met the individual, the artist's ability to replicate the entire intensity of his glory days was absolutely tantamount to cheating. Veyron now contributed his own unleashed might to this. Ultima, his master, had evolved as a result of the force she got from Rimuru, and Veyron had extended his force as well. Veyron now had enough magicules to compete with an awakened demon lord, not just a regular one.
Wait, what? You even feel like a completely different person than before.
Marco was taken aback. Veyron disregarded him and used the demon-specific create material skill to materialize a sword in his palm. It was only a replica of Agera's blade transform, but it had the ultimate gift artist applied to it. There was no longer any doubt that it was as near to the real thing as possible. Veyron cast a glance at Marco.
Indeed. This man, Kondo, should not be underestimated. But, you know.
But what?
Now that Lady Carrera has gone off to fight him, I fear his end is near.
Ridiculous.
Marco laughed off the absurd concept. He could never fathom Kondo losing. Both sides locked their gazes on each other. They were at odds, and there was no other option except to use force to settle the problem.
Now on Solo Leveling, Episode 27, a secret meeting ignites the hunt for the mysterious S rank. Don't miss this game-changing moment.
That's it for this video, guys. Thank you for always watching my videos and supporting my channel. A big thanks to the AnimeKouhai patrons who made this video possible. John Charles, Godman Gaming, Akon Angkok, Markithian Tidwell, Andre L. Hamilton, Adrienne, Kumo, Sanketh Chelu, T. Bush, John L., Steven, TNN, Nicholas Beidel. Thank you so much for helping out. I'll see you guys in the next video.